Hello, everyone. This is ALBERTA, the BitcoinMeister, the DisruptMeister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is June the 1st, 2018. Strong hand, long-term thinking, golden hold, 2020 halving, all that awesome stuff. All right, we've got guests from all around the world here today. I mean, I really went far to get you some guests today, all the way from Zimbabwe. It is Tawanda Kembo. Then, well, usually from Mexico, it's Juan Galt, but he's hanging out in the United States doing some things. Remember to mute your mic, Juan. And yes, we got Rocky Palumbo coming in from the great state of California, and all their links are below. So since Zimbabwe traveled the furthest to be here, we're going to start off just asking, because there's been big news out of Zimbabwe concerning Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Take it away, Tawanda Kembo.
Thank you, Adam. Okay, so first things first, if you're watching this show, I want you to share this video. Share this video right now. This is going to be an amazing show. It's and pound that like button while you're at it. It's been a crazy 3 weeks in Zimbabwe. So I believe it was Mahatma Gandhi who first said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. And that is exactly what happened to us. So when we started our company, our exchange back in December 2014, so we've been around a while. We first approached the central bank, and first they ignored us. They were not interested in talking to us, and then they laughed at us. And then 3 weeks ago, they basically banned cryptocurrency. It was a shocking move, especially because Zimbabwe is the hardest country in the world to do international payments, to do online payments, to get access to credit at good terms. And cryptocurrency was solving a very important problem in Zimbabwe. And it was really shocking that the central bank just banned cryptocurrency from Norway. And they went on to tell us to shut down our company immediately, which was crazy. So we dragged the central bank to court, and we had the ban lifted. It was very relieving to get that. Plus, a lot has happened as well. So I'm also proud to announce on this show for the first time that our exchange is now live in 3 other African countries, and we're also starting our ICO right now. So we've just gone live.
Whoa, that's a mouthful right there, people. Now, what are the other 3 countries? Now, it's again, I linked to the exchange below. It is Golix, if you guys did not know, because you got to check out the links below. And but so you're expanding into South. Where are you? South Africa?
Yeah. We've just expanded to South Africa, to Uganda, and to Kenya. So now you can buy, sell Bitcoin in South Africa, Uganda, and Kenya today, right now.
Now, previous to this announcement, people did not know about your expansion. But also, what was the story in Uganda beforehand? Did they have a Bitcoin exchange there?
There are a couple of Bitcoin exchanges that have just started up. Uganda is also going to be a big African country in terms of cryptocurrency. Government is very supportive. The president was the guest of honor at a Bitcoin conference in Uganda last week. Which was nice.
Well, and also, since your government has changed over the last year, as we all know, but It seems like they've made some very quick decisions here. Are you confident they're not going to change their mind again? And are you confident you've really got some good connections there now, and things should go smoothly for the time being?
Not really. So just to give you some background. So a government is very big, and so it has a number of ministries and departments, and then there are regulators, and there are different types of regulators. So you'll see in some countries, cryptocurrency is regulated by tax authorities, in some countries by central banks, in some countries by the Board of Investments. It depends. In some countries, multiple regulators claim jurisdiction over cryptocurrencies. In Zimbabwe, one of the regulators came out and said you should not use Bitcoin. You should not use cryptocurrency, which is shocking. So this is the first time this has happened anywhere in the world without there being any new law that was passed. And so we decided to take that issue to court. We didn't think it was right. And the court saw things our way. The regulator didn't have jurisdiction. They could not say that. Well, the case is still ongoing, so I can't speak much about the case itself, but the ban was lifted by the judge for now.
All right. Well, that's awesome. The regular citizen actually won. The overreaching government was put back by the judicial side of the government. So you tell everyone, you said you guys have, now everyone knows I'm a Bitcoin guy. All of us are Bitcoin guys. I mean, some of us like some altcoins or whatever, but you mentioned ICO. You're having an ICO, but it's pretty specific why you're having it. You're trying to raise money for your company. I mean, you're trying to get, you said you're expanding, you need money. Am I misinterpreting that or?
Exactly. So we really started this company because we wanted to give every person in Africa financial autonomy. And to us, it's clear cryptocurrency is the way people in Africa are going to get financial autonomy. So in all these African countries, not just Zimbabwe, so very difficult to do international payments. If you decide to start an internet-based payments, almost impossible to collect online payments, almost impossible to collect international payments in many of these countries. And this is the problem we're solving. So yes, we're doing a token sale. So our lawyer told us to say token sale, not ICO. So we're doing a token sale now to basically fund our expansion.
All right, token sale. I like it. Token sale sounds better. I guess your government doesn't care. If you say token sale, they don't even know what that is. So that's And by the way, everyone, for new people here, I've hung out with Tawanda in South Africa, in Zimbabwe. I spoke at his conference in Zimbabwe in 2016. So I saw with my own eyes, and I tell people during my speeches all over the world how I saw people who needed freaking Bitcoin. I mean, people standing in line to get $50 out of the bank all day. We were in a line. We were in a bank line. We weren't trying to get $50 out. We were trying to do something else bureaucratic, unfortunately. But so I got to experience it firsthand. What this man sees every day, what he's trying to solve. So again, keep up the good work. Every time that you're on the show, there's a new, it's like a soap opera over there, I guess dealing with the authorities at times, but you guys are just plugging away. You got a good team, and it's just
amazing team.
It's exciting. It's really exciting stuff. Now I want to ask Juan Galt. Juan Galt, you're not that big of a fan of governments. What did you think about that story just now?
Yeah, well, I mean, Tawanda, I really want to thank you for the work that you're doing. I think it's really great work that you're doing down there, and it's fascinating that they try to shut off your exchange and you multiplied, and now there's 3 of them. It really shows that this technology is a hydra, and it's really hard to kill. So keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. People, if you look into this ICO, and this might be a good thing to support, whether or not it's profitable as an ICO. But I'm sure you guys will do okay, or at least will do your best. So, I mean, I was just in Belize recently for a couple of weeks, and I was we're scoping out the country just to see what opportunities are there. And the Federal Reserve of Belize also came out against Bitcoin. But we were talking to people that are kind of connected, and they were saying basically they just don't understand it, and people fear what they don't understand, and until ruled out, it's good to assume that they just don't get it and go up there and explain it to them as nicely and clearly as possible. I'm assuming you guys have already tried that, and that didn't work. So now I guess we go to the next level. They just lose the customers, or at least they lose the exchange, and they'll probably back down at some point. It makes too much sense.
I gotta say, that was a great point you brought up about they tried to shut him down in Zimbabwe, and then he just expands into Uganda, Kenya, and South Africa. So pound that freaking like button, people. If you like Tawanda Kembo being in motion, even when his own government says no, well, what the heck? I'll just go into some other countries too. And at the same time, he gets to have his exchange in his own country. So really good way of putting it there, Juan. By the way, Juan, when you were in, I want to hear more about Belize. I guess McAfee didn't come with you to Belize, right?
No. He was he was kicked out.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, does anyone get that out there? Do you guys understand that joke? Because if you're like a worshiper of McAfee or whatever, you should probably look into what that joke means. We won't get into that in this show. We won't get into this show. But so what is there potential in Belize? Is it, I mean, where do you see, what's the level of usage there? We don't hear much about Belize. That's why I'm just all of a sudden so fascinated.
Yeah, it's a very interesting country. It's a British colony. It has about 350,000 people. It has a lot of natural resources, a lot of, as far as like agricultural and sort of underwater kind of beauty, it has a pretty hot tourism area on the island, some incredibly beautiful islands, with high tourism. And there's a very interesting culture there. There's something like 20% Mennonites. And then there's a lot of like Jamaican types, and then there's a lot of Mayan types, and then there's a lot of just kind of European types. Everybody speaks English, Spanish, and a lot of people speak Creole, which is the Mayan language. And it actually apparently has more Mayan ruins than Mexico, which is outstanding for such a small country. So I mean, for an English-speaking country in the Caribbean, which is very, very rare, there might be another one, it's an interesting country, and the government is very small because it's 350,000 people, so they seem very accessible. So we're kind of talking to people there and exploring it and seeing what's going on over there. It's very low infrastructure, which is funny being in the States right after being there, because in Belize it's like there's paved roads, but only the most important ones, and only the main runs into cities. Everything else is dirt. And there's like, internet is hard to come by. And so here in America, the infrastructure is unbelievable.
So there is no Bitcoin exchange based in Belize. Is there any cryptocurrency exchange?
As far as I know, there's some Bitcoiners. I don't know that there's an exchange. I'm not sure about that.
And there we go. English-speaking country, just like Kenya, South Africa, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. Golix, go for it, baby. Now, how about you, Rocky? Do you have any thoughts on this Zimbabwe, on Belize, on Juan Galt's flowing hair? Any commentary about any of that?
Well, it's a great story out of Zimbabwe. They always say you can't fight City Hall, but Tawanda, took on the government. He's won so far. I hope to hear more stories like this from Tawanda. Keep up the good work, man. And
you say from Tawanda. And that's where we're getting this news. No. I'm saying when you said that, it makes me think like all the mainstream media here or the coin desks of the world, they didn't present the story this way. They said there was some court ruling or something like that. I didn't know about if you want to hear what's really going on in Zimbabwe, you get it from the horse's mouth. You go to guys like Tawanda, and all the mainstream people should be contacting Tawanda. It's not like he's hiding. He's got the biggest freaking exchange in all of Zimbabwe. So good saying that there, Rocky.
Yes, I've contacted him several times through Skype personally. When I hear a report from coming from over there, I don't trust the news, so I go right to the ground level, right to the source there.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, Tawanda, you've heard anything else you want to say about Zimbabwe or any of the related stuff before we move on to the next stories?
Not really about Zimbabwe specifically, but yeah. First, I want to say thanks to Rocky, Adam. So it really means a lot when you just contact to check in to see if everything is okay. It's I always try to remind my team that the good times don't last forever. The bad times don't last forever as well. They are all imposters, and so even in the good times or bad, we need to just keep doing the right thing. No matter what the situation is. So good doesn't last forever. Bad times don't last forever as well. So we just need to keep doing what we think is right. So,
and yet have a level head. Don't go too crazy. That's what I tell people. Don't get caught up in the FUD, but don't get too crazy in the pumping headlines either, which deep down, Bitcoin's going to 1 million tomorrow. No, don't get that. Try to keep just what Tawanda said. They're bad times, they're good times. Think long term, be patient. Don't be impulsive on either side there. But I do say, you know, check out for anyone who is curious about the rest of the world, because obviously there's a lot of opportunity in cryptocurrency. We've got Juan going to Belize. We got Zimbabwe here. We got people talking about Uganda. Travel around, people. Visit Africa. Visit Belize. I mean, you don't hear about Americans visiting Belize yet. It's right south of Mexico. It's the next one down from Mexico. I don't know. All right. Well, let's talk about West Coast here. Let's get our West Coast expert in here, and that is Rocky. We're moving on to a video that I have linked to below, and it's by JW Weatherman, who was on this very show last week. Check out the archives to see that. That's linked to below. Check out all my shows from this past week. But this week at Bitcoin was really good. I really enjoy JW. I think he's the Bitcoin maximalist of the Bitcoin maximalists. He's got this video out there about RSK, sidechains, drive chains, and he feels that, I mean, a lot of you are going to be taken aback by this. I tweeted this out, what he put out there, and it's linked to below, but he feels that RSK is an attack on Bitcoin. So the video is linked to below. He explains it in a calm manner. Some people aren't going to be very calm when they watch it, though. And again, you can follow me at TechBalt, TechBalt on Twitter if you need updates like that throughout the day. Tawanda, Rocky, explain what this video was about and what you think is going on here.
Well, JW, I have a lot of respect for him. I've seen him on many shows, and he makes a lot of sense. I think he understands Bitcoin, you know, to a very high level. When he talks, I listen. And so this video, really shed some light on some things I think, needs to be explored. I have on my screen here, this is a live representation of the RSK network. It is live on the main net right now. It has been since, I believe, January of this year. But it is a limited use. You have to get permission to use it. So it's not, just open to anybody at the moment. But this is the time to find out about these things before, it goes live to everyone. While it's on this limited basis, we want to figure out really what's going on here, if this really is a threat. And so my hat's off to JW. This is like a white hat hacker here who wants to expose this and let everyone know about it before it could really do some damage. And so I want to see this, how this plays out. I'm very curious to see how this plays out.
Can you elaborate on the damage that he predicts, though, from the RSK? I mean, he talked about a 51% attack, right?
Well, it's merge mined, which is kind of complicated to explain. It's basically like the miners are doing the same work. They have to turn in all their work, even if it's not to the level of Bitcoin's difficulty. And because it's like the RSK network is running like alongside of Bitcoin at a lesser difficulty. And that's why you're seeing on this graphic here I have up, you're seeing a block time. It's averaging 15 seconds right now. So this is what it was supposed to be. It's supposed to be 15-second block time and very cheap transactions and pegged, it's a one-to-one peg with the Bitcoin price. So you don't have to leave the Bitcoin store of value to transact with this coin. And so, it has all these benefits. But if it has this vulnerability, we need to expose it now before this thing goes to everybody, is opened up to everybody.
So let's, and I'm going to put this into a little bit more of non-technical terms, and correct me if I'm wrong here. What he's saying is that the miners could get together and basically reverse some transactions, steal a lot of money, steal a lot of Bitcoin, and then the news would get out, and people would say Bitcoin was hacked, even though Bitcoin was not hacked. It would be RSK was. RSK was challenged. So he wants to challenge it before it can mess up the reputation of Bitcoin.
Yeah, because it's a side chain to Bitcoin, it does have that association. Like Verge has been attacked 3 times now in the past 2 months or less. And they stole a bunch of Verge coin. They could have turned those Verge coin into Bitcoin. And everybody knows Bitcoin wasn't hacked, right? It was Verge that was hacked and then turned into Bitcoin. But this close association with Bitcoin, because it's a side chain, kind of, makes it, a little closer to Bitcoin, a little too close to home. So we don't want to have this happen, while it's open to everybody. Let's figure this out while it's still, you need permission to use this network. Yeah, let's figure it out now.
Now, I do want to add, just because some people are going to watch this and they're going to be like, this dude he is a big Bitcoin maximalist. So some people are going to think he's being overprotective to Bitcoin, I think. And that he's just caused everything an attack. Maybe I mean, I'm sure he'd be willing to debate anyone on that, but I just want to prep everyone, because I think people will find this to be controversial, and then they're just going to go on his reputation, because he is a huge Bitcoin maximalist. He is, and I guess it's possible that his mind could be clouded a bit. But I mean, what he says, it's clear he is doing this for the love of Bitcoin. He's challenged, and because he also questioned the guy behind RSK. Or one of the guys behind RSK, and I don't know if people are going to be too fond of accusations like that, but we shall see. Juan, what were your thoughts on the video?
Well, it was definitely shocking. I hadn't, having just looked at this and having not thought about the topic for a while, it's fascinating. I hadn't heard of that attack. I heard, like, what Weatherman said was that with a 51% attack, you can basically take whatever, all the money on the rootstock, smart contracts, right? And Bitcoin would probably be blamed for it because it's a sidechain. Now, I've actually hung out with some of the rootstock guys. I interviewed one of the top guys. I can't exactly remember his name, which is a mistake. But and I've hung out with some of them at the Latin American Bitcoin conference, because a lot of them are from Argentina, or at least there's Argentinian people, very much involved with them. And they seem like okay people to me. They seem like decent people to me. But I have heard about this ASIC boost stuff, and so that's definitely interesting. Obviously in crypto there's no court that you can go and talk this out. So the court of public opinion was going to have to sort of settle this, and so I bet you we're going to start seeing a lot more talk about this. They're probably going to come out in public. They'll say it's not quite like that, and et cetera, et cetera. And we'll see. I mean, it's interesting to talk about Weatherman as a kind of white hat hacker. He called himself a black hat, but he said that black hat and white hat are like, they're justified sometimes, right? I think it's reasonable to explore when does it make sense to consider, hacking a defense of the network, right? And, I don't know, I'm not saying I have the answer to that question, but I do think that sometimes it probably does make sense. So, I don't know. Rootstock they've always said that they're a federation. They're saying they're going to be compliant, as far as I've heard. And so what does that mean? Not because compliance is always bad or anything like that, but what compromises does their system design have that let them be compliant, right? Because, we know what compliance means. Compliance means reversing transactions. Compliance means full KYC, full AML, so it's going to be really curious. The spotlight is going to fall on them, and good, because I was considering, I was going to look into Rootstock in order to see if their platform was ready for a token, because I'm working with a project, and there's not that many token platforms that are that evoke a lot of confidence from me right now, so I was like, maybe Rootstock, but now things are getting shaky. So definitely looking forward to following this story. And yeah, if there's going to be an attack on this thing, then better now than later. But the idea of a 51% attack, if there's a 51% attack to break, I guess it depends on what they mean by 51% attack. If the difficulty is lower on Rootstock, then a 51% attack in Rootstock would not necessarily be a 51% attack on Bitcoin. So there's some clarification that's important there, because if we get to 51% attack on Bitcoin, then that's going to be bad news anyways. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and he didn't want there to be that confusion. He doesn't want people to think there's a 51% attack on Bitcoin when there's one on Rootstock. And again, I want Rootstock to do well. I want this to be all good intentions and everything. I want this to be a productive process and everything. I had no idea. I was not suspicious of RSK previously or anything like that. And you talk about the compliance issue. And he did not specifically name any talk about compliance at all in that video, but I think something like that might have got him suspicious to begin with. But he did briefly mention something about, I think they talked about having their own ICO or whatever, or their own coin too. I think he didn't like that, and that might have led him, didn't start him off on the best foot with thinking about this project. But again, he's trying to look into this, and I don't want to interpret his thoughts either. I don't know what's in his head, but I know he's doing this for the best of Bitcoin. He wants the best for Bitcoin because of this. Probably not the best for RSK. He doesn't want Bitcoin to be, its reputation to be damaged at all, and he doesn't want a bunch of miners short selling Bitcoin when they know something bad's about to happen with RSK. And he gave some really good reasons. All right, Tawanda, I know you don't have that much to say about this. Any thoughts? Any thoughts about the video?
Like just that I've seen JW on this show a couple of times, and I know he's a very smart guy. So if he has something to say, I think it's worth listening to. But I also don't know much about Rootstock. So like for me, running an exchange is like a lot of work, and I actually try not to look at other projects or look that deeply. So I don't know much about Rootstock to have an opinion. So I'll pass on this one.
All right. Well, excellent. Whoa, what is that? Pound that like button when Adam forgets what the heck he was about to say. Rocky, do you have any closing remarks on the situation with the Rootstock? Anything you want to add?
Well, you talked about him maybe being too protective of Bitcoin. I don't think you could be too protective of Bitcoin. This is like the core developers. I mean, they check and double check and triple check, and they make sure there's the code is good. There's no bugs. There's no backdoors. You gotta be so careful with this stuff when so much is at stake. So Bitcoin is the most valuable coin, except for that 42 coin, but. Which used to be 41, but they accidentally mined an extra coin. Now it's 42 coin.
Yeah, they weren't too careful. Well,
no, they weren't. They weren't. So you can't be too careful with this sort of stuff. I think it's a good thing what he's doing. I am very anxious to see the results of this. Hopefully they can work this all out, because I do like RSK overall. I mean, it gives us 15-second blocks, 15-second confirmations. It adds about 200 transactions per second it could handle if it's going at full speed. So it could be a very good thing to help speed things along while Bitcoin is still growing and improving. And boy, I'd really like to talk about that, just Bitcoin in general.
Oh, and we will, and that's why you're on the man. You are contributing. This man's the knowledge right here, baby. You guys have been asking to see him again. It's been a while since Rocky's been on the show. What you just said about you can't be too protective of Bitcoin. You can't. I asked the questions. Maybe you're absolutely right, because we remember with the 2x. I'm the guy that always says, take your time, don't rush. But I mean, the other way of saying that also is you can't be too careful. You can't be too protective. And the 2x people, you might remember, they were rushing. They weren't very protective. They obviously didn't triple and quadruple check. And if Bitcoin would have said, oh, we'll just do what 2x is doing, Bitcoin would have exploded. There'd be no more Bitcoin anymore, because the whole 2x thing went up in flames because they didn't triple check or quadruple check or whatever.
Yeah. Now, the whole way that was canceled, I mean, 6 signatures from 6 people canceled the project, basically. I mean, there's no 6 people in Bitcoin that could do anything. You just, I mean, talk about centralization. You do not want that in your decentralized cryptocurrency.
And that's a good segue into what's been going on, and we're going to get back to you, because I know you got a lot to say about Bitcoin, but in the title of this video it says altcoin cycles, and right now we're in the part of the altcoin cycle, well, maybe where we haven't been before, where some of these guys are being hacked, and the altcoin market is not what it was back in November and December. Now it's down. Now, I'm one to think that there's so many newbies in the space, so many people who got into this. They don't even care about Bitcoin. They just care about ICOs. They just care about flipping this, flipping that they don't care what happened with Verge. They just like that it's associated with, it's it's a good idea. It's associated with pornography. That's a big industry. So if it gets hacked, if they're 51%, who cares? I don't know what that means. They're saying, I'll just keep investing. And so I think we're at a point now where there are some people who think, you know what, maybe this is when some altcoins are going to finally die. Are we at the time when, and be like, I know there'll always be one guy mining one in his basement or whatever. So that none of them can really totally die. But where some of these ones that were once popular just disappear off the face of the earth, basically. Juan, do you think we're at that point now? Do you think, or this is just a trough in the excitement around the irrational exuberance around altcoins, and that we're bound to see another insanity take over?
Well, I'm really glad that you noticed this because it's something that's been on my mind for the past week, ever since the Verge hack and the Bitcoin Gold hack, which were both protocol level attacks that, you know, I haven't looked into the Verge attacks in much detail, but the Bitcoin Gold attack was a 51% attack with a double spend against an exchange, and I've heard numbers like $18 million. I mean, I haven't looked into fact-checked any of this deeply enough to sort of know, but this is pretty much, you know, common sense knowledge now that an attack like that happened. And so, you know, I think we are entering the era of, let's say, a controlled forest fire, or at least a forest fire in the altcoin space. And I mean, people that don't know the space, people that are not, you know, educated on the fundamentals, they won't get that at the foundation of Bitcoin, there's a kind of might makes right game. It's a brute force security game, and that's mining, and that's hashing power. And as far as I've sort of looked into this potential sort of new trend in Bitcoin of let's see how secure many of these altcoin protocols actually are, which is what a lot of the OGs have been talking about forever. It's like Bitcoin is the most secure. Doesn't matter how innovative you think your altcoin is. If you're doing any kind of, you know, delegated proof of stake, which is, you know, kind of like more unique, or if you're doing some other sort of, if you fork Bitcoin, then now you're vulnerable to the ASICs in Bitcoin attacking your coin. In other words, whatever the dominant, so every coin has an algorithm, right? That a lot of computers are designed specifically to play, you know, and try to randomly brute force, right? And you know, they're called ASICs, right? The dominant coin in Bitcoin, in Bitcoin SHA-256 algorithm is Bitcoin. Anything else that's a fork of Bitcoin is going to get wrecked by little ASIC mining cartels just because they can. And as long as there's any value in any of these cryptocurrencies, there's going to be somebody there may be a gang that's going to try to brute force attack it or double spend it. And we're going to start seeing a lot of that. And I think to some degree that's good, you know, because, well, I mean, I don't want people to lose their money, but if they're putting money on things that are not secure, then they're going to probably lose it anyways. You know, just to finish with a kind of fascinating metaphor on this, you know, forest fires, you know, they happen because dead wood accumulates. And if you control the forest fire, if you burn it when it's not too big, if you put guidelines around it so that it doesn't spread, then it clears the dead wood and new flowers blossom and new life blossoms. If you let it grow too big, if you let too much dead wood accumulate and you don't control it and it burns the soil and nothing lives there again for a long time. We don't want that to happen, and Bitcoin is the control in this forest fire. So, you know, don't forget that Bitcoin is the most secure.
Oh yeah, I like that metaphor. Hey, and also, yeah, we don't want people to lose money, but personal responsibility is the new counterculture. They got into it. They took, I mean, you can't undo what they did. You make a decision to buy some of these fifth tier altcoins. You got to roll with the punches. You got to deal with it. If you lose the money, then you learn the lesson the hard way. Tawanda, do you have any thoughts on what Juan just said? Unmute, baby. You're muted.
Oh. Yeah, so sorry about the mute. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's going to be, but like Bitcoin has a big advantage, which is scale. So yeah, so a lot of these altcoins will never have the scale that that Bitcoin is, and that's where the security of Bitcoin is. It's like it will be hard for for Bitcoin to have this kind of problems. I think it's more likely impossible for Bitcoin to have these kinds of problems because of the scale and the decentralization that Bitcoin has.
Now, I know you obviously have been super busy because your government, which is controlled by the military, I believe, still was trying to shut your business down. But do you still get people asking you about altcoins? Has there been is there still as much interest? Have you noticed, or are you just too busy now? I mean, you've had some very serious things to deal with.
Yeah, so it's really interesting just to just to give you some background. Our exchange colleagues, our real mission is to give every person in Africa financial autonomy, right? And Africa has a number of problems, especially money problems. So we think, and we're starting to see some really clever solutions coming up. So we're starting to see some ICOs and token sales happening on the continent as well. So being an exchange, like one thing we see with all these projects, I think we've had like 4 successful ICOs / token sales happen in Africa, but all these cryptocurrencies don't have an exchange to list on. And so that's where I would say our interest is with regards to altcoins. So we also want to be the first to list local indigenous African cryptocurrencies that are targeting Africa-specific problems. And like the bulk of the work we've been doing on the back end on our exchange is basically to prepare for that. In doing so, we expect to see a lot of these projects, a lot of cryptocurrency projects happening in Africa over the next couple of years, and we're positioning ourselves to be the first place where they list, and also to be because we've put together a large number of talented people on the continent, which are very hard to find, by the way. We also want to help a lot of people look for ways to use cryptocurrencies to solve indigenous, unique problems. So,
real quick,
that's where my interest comes from. So, yes. I hope it answers your question here.
You said that you don't have enough guys getting in the blockchain. If more Africans learn about blockchain, their jobs are for, you've got jobs for them, right?
Absolutely. So we are always seeking out good developers, good marketing people who understand this technology. We also have some very good internal training programs. So if you are just a good developer and you join our team in 3 months, you'll be very good. We have some very good internal training programs as well.
I will say this, and I wasn't even, you just gave me a new subject, and Rocky's got some very important things to say in a second, but your country was controlled by the same guy for a really long time, and I'm no fan of that guy. But what he did do is he took pretty good control of the schools, and everyone's got a really good education there. I mean, maybe part of the reason was there weren't all the luxuries of life that we have in the United States that distract everyone, and people got into learning there. What I'm saying is that the government probably still has a pretty big hold on the schools in Zimbabwe. If they were smart and they wanted to really get the people jobs, they would just start teaching blockchain, start teaching Bitcoin, start teaching people to be programmers in school, instead of some of the other maybe subject matters that don't get you as good of a job in the long run. Just an idea I thought of. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting observation. So Zimbabwe does have a very good education system. One of the things we export a lot from Zimbabwe is people. So we have a lot of Zimbabweans working outside Zimbabwe in some very good companies, and a lot of Zimbabweans running those companies as well. But one thing we've seen also is the leading cryptocurrency company in Zimbabwe. We see a lot of schools, particularly universities, taking an interest. So we have people on our staff are always at universities and talking to students, assisting students that are doing dissertations and projects in the space. We do a lot of education and training. It's one of the biggest areas we invest in as a company. So we invest a lot in education and training.
All right, this is good to hear. I hope everyone in Zimbabwe, if there are any people who have sway in the dictates of what goes on there within the government, starts focusing on this new world of Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrency, whatever you want to call it. The opportunities are all around the world, and they're actually in Zimbabwe also. The people are well educated there, and they do export. They export them to other fields in other parts of the world. Keep them in Zimbabwe and make Zimbabwe a huge Bitcoin hub is what I say. All right, now we're going to go to Rocky, and he doesn't want to talk about these altcoins. They're just test nets for him. He wants to talk about these mining attacks. He wants to talk about the ASICs. He wants to talk about everything good with Bitcoin. And also, I want to know, Rocky, if you've also noticed that some of these people who got into Bitcoin recently, who were more corporate, they've kind of gotten silent lately. They haven't been showing up at some of the events that I've been at. I don't know about your events. So take it over. You got the floor.
Well, these attacks on these mining attacks on Verge and BGold, they're kind of music to my ears, because if you've been going to my meetups the past year and a half, you would hear me preaching how these coins are not safe, they're not secure, they don't have the hash rate backing them, securing them. And I would hear from the crowd, people would say, "Oh, Rocky, you're just paranoid. This has never happened before. You're worrying about nothing. There's no real financial incentive for them to do it." Well, you can't say that anymore. Okay, these coins are not secure. There's no altcoin out there where the hash power behind it is anywhere near Bitcoin's. It's just so massive, the amount of hashes per second pointed at Bitcoin. It's just astronomical. So it would just take so much money, and there was talk about just how much money it would take to do a 51% attack. And it's not just the money. You have to have the hardware available. It doesn't matter how much money you have if you can't buy the miners. And if you can't buy the miners, you'd have to make the miners. And that's not a simple process. That process would take years. So if you try to figure out how many miners you would need to do a 51% and start manufacturing those, by the time you designed the chips and went through all the the manufacturing process and got those miners ready, you would probably need 3 or 4 times that many miners to do the attack, because by that time the Bitcoin hash rate just keeps growing and growing and growing constantly. So it's just not feasible in Bitcoin at this point. It's just too big when it comes to mining. But Bitcoin is just doing outstanding these days. SegWit is going exactly the way it was planned to go. It's just working perfectly. It's keeping the mempool down to a manageable size, very low. It's keeping, which is a good thing, and it's keeping the transactions smaller, which allows more transactions per block, which helps keep the mempool slow and keeps the transactions cheaper. It's getting adopted by more and more wallets, more and more exchanges. I think the last I saw, SegWit transactions were about 40% of the blocks, of the transactions in the blocks. So, and SegWit is a block size increase. All you have to do is use it. So the blocks are, I'm seeing a bigger average block these days when the mempool is backed up over a meg. The block sizes are typically anywhere from 1.1 to 1.6 megs. I think I saw a 1.7 meg yesterday. I've seen two meg blocks, which is pretty rare these days. But as that usage goes up to 70, 80, 90%, it's going to be pretty common. And then, of course, when Schnorr signatures come out, that's going to make the blocks have the ability to get up to about 3.8 megs. So there's lots going on with Bitcoin right now. Probably the next update is going to be MAS, the Merkleized Abstract Syntax Tree update, which is going to, again, help transactions be even smaller. It's going to help with privacy. It's going to make the smart contracts in Bitcoin, the ability to be larger. It's going to help with block propagation. So if the blocks are getting propagated faster, we all know what that means. That means less orphan blocks, and that means we could be looking at a base block size increase.
There you go, people. He just laid it down for you, right? You wanted to share some Bitcoin knowledge. You just got it out there. Juan, any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating what's happening in Bitcoin for sure. There's a lot of development going on. I think I'm calling it the protocol wars, because I think we're going to be seeing some very, very exciting times during the next year or two in regards to the security of a lot of these altcoins. And Bitcoin is very much underestimated, and most of the development talent is going to Bitcoin. There's a lot of talent drained in the altcoins, and so this forest fire is going to bring talent back, and it's going to bring money back to Bitcoin. I would love to talk more about Bitcoin specifically around this topic, but I'm not really well educated enough, and I need to do some more extra research on it. I have been thinking about what altcoins are going to thrive in this kind of forest fire scenario, this controlled forest fire. And the way that I see it is any coin that's dominant in their own proof of work is going to be okay. So I believe I'm not sure if Litecoin has a different algorithm. Can you comment on that real quick? Anybody?
Rocky.
I'm sorry. What was the question?
Yeah, does Litecoin have a different proof of work algorithm than Bitcoin?
Yes, it uses script.
Right. So I would imagine that Litecoin is going to be dominant and thus it's going to be safe compared to any other forks of Litecoin. Dash also has its own proof of work algorithm. So it's really the smaller altcoin forks that are going to be that are riskier from a proof of work perspective. Anything that's delegated proof of stake is kind of a different protocol. I think they're kind of political systems, and we're going to see attacks on them of their own kind, but that's probably further away. Monero might be good because they recently hard forked the proof of work away from ASICs. So we will see how that plays out. A lot of GPU miners might go there, but I don't know. That's a little bit of a different game. And Komodo, which is one of the organizations that the cryptocurrencies that I'm with, they've thought about this, and this is one of the reasons that I like them is because they understand the fundamentals well enough. So they created something called delayed proof of work, where basically they back up the blocks of their sort of Zcash fork on top of Bitcoin in a way that if the proof of work if Equihash gets attacked, which Bitcoin Gold, as far as I know, was an Equihash proof of work, so the GPU mineable proof of work algorithm, then if a lot of these Zcash forks start getting attacked, Komodo can basically be pegged to Bitcoin from a proof of work perspective, and they can just say, okay, we're just going to wait for 6 Bitcoin confirmations in order to have security, and they'll just basically kind of be attached, and they do it through like a transaction that's sort of a hash of the block of the Zcash block. So we'll see if it plays out. I don't know if it'll go well. It might go well, it might not go well. We'll see. So some of these are going to survive, and a lot of this, if the game keeps playing like it is, which it by all standards it seems like it is, then a lot of them are going to kind of burn. So play it safe, folks. Understand the risks.
I hadn't heard that survival theory yet, that evolution of cryptocurrency theory yet. I think that's very good. People note that, pound that like button. You only hear stuff like that on this show. Some people with their altcoin survival evolution mechanism that they point to is, what does their altcoin do better than Bitcoin, or what does it do that Bitcoin doesn't do? And people, I thought you were going to say you were going to bring up privacy, that that maybe some of these privacy coins are going to thrive. Do you think that has anything to do with it, or are you sticking with your main theory?
Yeah, I don't think privacy has to do with this. It's kind of a different layer. Yeah,
that's it. So it won't be a layer that helps some of these guys survive. If they've got the best or the one of the top privacy coins out there, they still might get wrecked. It's just people aren't going to be going for that. It's going to be about the algorithms and everything like that.
Right. Adam.
Yes.
As far as privacy goes, Bitcoin is working on a project called Bulletproofs, and it's a much better way of doing privacy. It's better than there's many problems with Monero with that the ring signature method. They can't seem to fix these issues. So now Fluffy Pony is taking a good hard look at Bulletproofs and maybe forking Monero over to Bulletproofs. But all the good, worthwhile things are coming out of Bitcoin. They are very careful. They got to make sure it's working right when they release it, so it doesn't come out the fastest. But when they do it, they'll do it the best. So yes, be looking for Bulletproofs. Wow. It's going to give privacy to Bitcoin.
Thank you for that update. That is, I mean, and again, I always say too that, Bitcoin, it's just a matter of time before Bitcoin has everything that these other altcoins do. It'll be the master of privacy one day. But there are some people who say that there are altcoins that currently do privacy better or way ahead or whatever. Oh wait,
well, it's probably going to be a second layer.
Yes.
It's supposed to be a second layer. So you could use Bitcoin normally if you want, and if you want that privacy, you can opt into it if you want.
By the way, wait, Juan, were you just about to say something? I heard.
No, go ahead.
No, I think it was me.
Oh yeah, sorry. Take it away, Tawanda.
Yeah, so I kind of see it the same way that Rocky does. So a lot of good things are coming out of Bitcoin, but I also think the altcoins are also good testing grounds for a lot of good features that are going to be added to Bitcoin eventually after being tried and tested there. Bitcoin also has one big advantage. So I'm sure guys, you still remember when we got into Bitcoin, it would take a long time to see an update. Today, if you go on GitHub, no matter what day it is, we're seeing multiple commits every day. We're seeing a lot of very good developers starting to contribute to Bitcoin. Code developers have a big backlog, so there are lots of pull requests. There are now, so almost every day there are hundreds of pull requests that are pending. Lots of commits coming to GitHub. So Bitcoin is also improving very fast, much faster than it was when we got into Bitcoin.
Awesome. I'm glad you're looking at that GitHub and everything. Some of that's technical. I can't stare at that stuff all day. That's for the technical people, and I know the best technical people are playing around over there and everything, and checking it every day, the commits and everything. So thank you for bringing that up, Tawanda. Rocky, any more Bitcoin news you want to share that you didn't get out there just now?
Well, the only thing we didn't talk about was the price.
Of course. Yes.
Which, come on now, strong hand, people.
Strong hand. That's why I don't even talk about. I never talk about it because it doesn't bother me at all. 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. That's the price. But yeah, go ahead.
Long-term thinking, right? Yeah. Long-term. Think about that 2020, 2024, right? But let's look at what Bitcoin was a year ago. Bitcoin a year ago on this date was $2,400. 2 years ago on this date, Bitcoin was $538. So Bitcoin's fine. It's stronger than ever. The price is always going to go up and down. Think long-term, have a strong hand, support your favorite coin, the most secure coin that you could find.
You mentioned 2 years ago in Bitcoin. Now, today is the first day of June, and I remember 2 years ago pretty well. It was during the summer, and maybe one of you guys remember what month it was, that Bitfinex, it got hacked, and it brought the price had gotten up to about 700, and then it went down to like 530 something again suddenly, and everybody thought it was the end of the world. But what all the newbies don't know is that, an exchange of the caliber of Bitfinex can be hacked. So don't leave your coins there, people. It happened just probably a little less than 2 years ago. I don't know. I know it was during the summer. I'm pretty sure it was during the summer. It was before the halving. Yeah, so it probably was June. I don't know now. Anyway, Juan, conclusionary thoughts here. We're hitting the end of the show. What was left off? What do you have to say?
Well, let's start looking more at the protocol level security of these coins. I think it's fascinating. I think it's going to bring attention where it needs to be. And, I really wish that there was a better token platform, because there's definitely market demand and there's definitely utility in creating crypto financial products. I think Ethereum is kind of in a shaky place. Vitalik, I believe, recently announced that they're going to fork to proof of stake, and Ethereum is in a very awkward and fascinating situation. Bitmain has ASICs for Ethereum, so goes the rumor on the streets. And we know what happened with Monero and ASICs. As soon as the ASICs with Bitmain from Bitmain came out and Monero hard forked, the proof of work, the hashing power of Monero dropped by 80% and sort of started to rise a little bit again. I don't know where it's at right now. So that is a lot of hashing power that was just coming from the ASICs, and Ethereum is probably in a similar situation, which is why Vitalik is probably finally talking about, okay, we're forking to proof of stake. I haven't seen any proof of stake coins reach the top 15 of market cap in a long time. I think NXT was probably the last one that did that. and delegated proof of stake is kind of the new hot thing, and we'll see how good it actually is. So we'll see. And EOS is coming out and is sort of threatening Ethereum's sort of crown, and that's basically specifically what they're targeting. And so we'll see. What happens with Ethereum. They kind of have to fork now. They kind of have to go proof of stake now. And but yeah, I mean, I really wish there was something like counterparty on top of Bitcoin, but that didn't have this sort of counterparty token in the middle and had more development attention, more activity happening, because there's definitely demand for tokens for the sake of financial products. I believe there's some people working on a version of counterparty that doesn't have a token and that solves some of their problems. So this would be really, really great for the crypto space in general, to be able to leverage Bitcoin security while being able to create their own specific financial assets. So, looking forward to all of these events kind of playing out.
I wouldn't count on the switch to proof of stake anytime anytime soon in Ethereum. That's been the plan since Ethereum started. From the get-go, they had it hard coded into their protocol that there was going to be a switch at a certain point, and then every time they fork, they keep pushing it back, all on the decision of one person. That's not too much decentralization there. So we'll see when it happens. I'm not holding my breath because it just keeps getting kicked down the road. That can just keeps getting kicked down the road.
Yeah, that's pretty much the case. And the only reason that I think it might happen now is because they pretty much have to. They're cornered. The transaction speed or at least the memory pool of Ethereum is pretty thick. There's a lot of projects there. They need to scale, and they're having a hard time, and they think they can do it with proof of stake. And then now they have to compete with EOS, which is basically, EOS is a very interesting project from a protocol perspective because it is kind of political. It's sort of stake-based politics, and so they have a much lower node count. It costs about $1 million by some estimates a year to run a full node of EOS, which is a form of centralization. But they get this sort of, people get to, vote for block producers that they like. And so there's kind of like some political agility there. Ethereum has to basically fork as far as I can tell now. And if they fail, then they might actually take a serious hit from EOS. And then we'll see if EOS can hold ground. But anyway, yeah, we'll see. Nothing is guaranteed in space.
Yeah, and if they do or don't, it'll be the decision of Vitalik, one person.
Yeah, again,
very centralized.
Perhaps it's definitely more centralized than Bitcoin, but I mean, as far as cryptocurrencies go, Ethereum is probably the second biggest as far as development community and just general size. I would say.
Yes, except for it's not a cryptocurrency; it's a smart contract platform. It's not a currency at all.
It's definitely not a currency. Most cryptocurrencies are not even close to currencies. Not even Bitcoin is really a currency yet, but it's definitely closer than any other of them.
All right. Well, I will also believe it when I see it too, because they have been talking about it for a while. Hey, and maybe Ethereum Classic will take advantage of the whole situation. Who knows? We hear all sorts of things. I did want to say, you mentioned the term delegated proof of stake. That seems like the buzzword of the month. I'll tell you that. I hear a lot of people. Delegated proof of stake, or that's the newest thing here. All right, Tawanda, you've got a comment here. You've got a comment, and you're gonna say your thoughts, what was left out, and all that good stuff.
I guess I'll just close off by picking up the conversation Rocky started on price, because you can't talk about the price of Bitcoin without talking about Africa the most, because the price of Bitcoin is the highest in Africa. But I guess it's because in Africa we've got real money problems. So to start with, our local fiat currencies in many of these countries are more volatile than Bitcoin. If you look over the last year, they are more volatile than most cryptocurrencies. But also prices are also Africa, the hardest place to do international payments, hardest place to do online payments, hardest place to collect payments internationally, hardest place in the world to get access to credit at good terms. And so because we've got a lot of money problems in Africa, our people don't really have financial autonomy. So that's why price tends to trade at a premium here. So to close off, I would like to say, if you care about giving people in Africa financial autonomy, We believe opening up exchanges in every African country is the way to do that. So you can help out by participating in our token sale. Plus, we'll give every listener on this show a good discount. So I'll send Adam a link you can include in the show notes. Plus, I'll also send him a link to a blog post I wrote on why the price of Bitcoin is highest in Africa, to get into all the different reasons.
All right, and remember to put that on your Steemit too. You still got your Steemit. Make some steam off that baby. All right, and that'll all be linked to below. Rocky, you've got some final thoughts here.
Oh yeah, one last thing on the price real quick. Try looking up the price of a Bitcoin in Venezuela right now. I believe I looked it up last night. It was over 13 billion bolivar.
Yeah, you know what? When Gabriel's on the show from Venezuela, he always brings that up. It is amazing. It changes. It keeps on going up and up and up. If people in Venezuela were paying attention 2 years ago, they had some Bitcoin, they're doing pretty well compared to their neighbors right about now. I'll say that.
Yes, 2 years ago, it was 10 bolivar equaled $1. Now it's about 80,000 bolivar equals $1.
Unbelievable. So, Rocky, your information is linked to below. You want to say anything about the meetups? Anything about anything else? Contact information thing you want to promote?
Yeah, just everyone's welcome to visit the website here. You can get more information about my Bitcoin user group. There's also information here about my splitting service. You can see the coins that I currently can do. And I also can retrieve coins if you accidentally send like a Bitcoin to a BCH address or vice versa. Or you could even send from a SegWit address, you could send Bitcoin to the Litecoin SegWit address. So I could retrieve all of that. So just shoot me an email if you have any questions or any issues with your wallets at all. Awesome.
And Juan, I didn't let you, is there anything you wanted to promote real quick? Anything you want to mention? And then we'll conclude.
Yeah, I'm offering consulting services as I usually do. I help people kind of understand the technology. I help companies sort of think about their cryptocurrency strategy. And, we can also sort of help people recover lost coins and anything like that. So, yeah, if you think I can help you, you can find me at Juan.com. Just look up Juan Galt, you'll find me.
Awesome. Well, that's it, guys. We had a beautiful show today. I really enjoyed this panel. They brought their freaking A game to the table. I know all you watching enjoyed it. You pounded the like button. You subscribed to the channel. You check out Adam at TechBot on Twitter. Check out all of these guys, their tweets, their pages, their everything, because they're awesome. We do this show every Friday. It varies on what time it is. Next Friday, right now I'm in Bergen, Norway. I'm going to be in Oslo, Norway next Friday, and I'm leaving for the United States that day, so it will be an early show next Friday. I do a new show here every day that's not This Week in Bitcoin. On Saturday, we do the Beyond the Bitcoin show, and that should be pretty exciting also. That'll be usually around nighttime on the East Coast. So again, I'm Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister, DisruptMeister. Thanks a lot, panel, for being on the show this week. Thanks a lot for everybody watching it live, or if you're watching this taped. We'll see you soon. Have a fun weekend. Have a great summer, and go Bitcoin. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.